Good morning, Asia. Good morning from Thailand. Good morning exactly from,
Kopangan.
again, my beautiful, amazing co-host, Rafael, and me today. As always, where I bring him something on my plate, and he goes through it. It's kind of like serving you something. It's kind of like serving you a new dish. How do you feel about that?
Delicious.
All right. Since you said delicious, like you reminded me of what is on my plate today.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about how to use our brains and this, that, and the other, and how to get from 0 to millions and stuff. Now I want to know, what is actually the best nutritions that we can take to kind of master that game, to be at peak performance?
For our bodies.
Yeah.
For our entire beings. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So one of the things that's very interesting to understand that I discovered as a biochemist
Okay.
is that our cells, the simplest cells in our body, have up to 2,000 to 3,000 different processes that are occurring at once at any given moment. And the most complex ones have up to 10,000.
Oh, wow.
And all of this is like this metabolic puzzle, this, like a Swiss watch where this little click connects to another little gears, and everything you eat affects everything that you do. And we have multiple different pathways because in nature, we never know when we're going to find food. I mean, today we live in a world where you just press a button, you make a phone call, it gets delivered.
Exactly.
You're never more than 15 minutes away from a source of
Exactly.
food. Most of us.
Yeah.
Right? So it turns out that our bodies, we have different living modes. We can be in survival mode, living mode, or in thriving mode. It turns out that our biochemistry, our metabolism,
Okay.
functions by taking another life form, pulling apart the Lego blocks, like I'd like to tell my daughter, and then using that to rebuild whatever you need or use whatever you need in your body.
Okay.
And we're talking basic elements, carbohydrates, right? Proteins, amino acids, lipids, fatty acids, vitamins, water, salts, minerals, stuff like that, right? So we need all of that. Now, we humans are omnivorous by nature. We can eat anything. All around the world, there's all these different recipes, all these different diets and nutritional approaches towards life.
Yeah.
So something that I decided to do for myself was to study and go, what is the minimal amount of food this body needs to function? Because then if I ever find myself in a minimal situation, I don't have to stress about it. I know that if I get a handful of this, a handful of that, a glass of this, a cup of that, but that's enough for this body to function at baseline. So what's our minimal essential baseline nutrition? And one of the things that's been discovered is that you just very, very simple food. There's so many people that are eating very, very little food and they're doing fine.
Yeah. Me, one of them.
Right.
Like earlier.
Right. But that puts you at a baseline.
Yeah.
And at baseline, you
I
can
never
do
thought
so
of
much.
that, actually. Yeah, I never thought about, like, that minimal. Like, you get to stay at that level. You gotta go a little bit and deal with what is gonna happen as well a little bit, so you can have, like, a different level of, like, productivity.
That's right. So one of the things that I started practicing and studying was doing fasts,
Okay.
intermittent fasting. And then what happens if I just eat whatever I need to eat today,
Okay.
and then tonight that's going to be my last supper, so to speak. And then tomorrow I'm just going to drink water.
Oh, what?
And of course
What's
I'm
fasting?
just the water fast. I'm not going to climb mountains. I'm not going to carry big bags of things. I'm just going to sit, chill, and see what happens if I just drink water. Because normally we have dinner at some point in the evening,
Yeah.
and then we go to sleep, and then 6, 8, 10 hours occur before we eat again.
Yeah.
And the reason it's called break fast is because that's what you're doing. You're breaking the fast. But if you don't eat anything and you just drink water, you will experience baseline blood sugar levels. Now, the thing to understand is that our nervous system only functions on glucose. So whatever your blood sugar levels are, your system will function on that. And in nature, there are no convenience stores. You got to buy your meal. So everyone wakes up at baseline. When I just drink water for breakfast, lunch, dinner,
Okay.
and then I go to sleep,
Okay.
and the next morning I take my time and then I have a light breakfast, that day that I've only been drinking water, I experience what it's like to be at baseline blood sugar levels. And if I monitor how I feel in my body, how I feel in my emotions, and how I feel in my thoughts, I will have only the most essential thoughts coming through, the most essential emotions coming through, and the body will just do the most essential things like breathe, my heart's going to beat, I can stand up, I can walk around, I can do some basic things. But if I want to run a marathon, that's not going to be the best way to do it. If I want to solve a complex calculus problem, that's not going to be the best option for it. Our bodies need a certain amount of calories just to stay alive, just to stay warm. Our body stores extra energy. So for most people, it's okay to do a 1 day, like a 30-hour water fast, right? Where you go from dinner and then you just next day, all day you drink water, go to bed, that's 24 hours. The next morning you wake up and you have a light breakfast. You get to see what kind of thoughts, what things are bothering you. And one of the most amazing things I realized is that there were very few thoughts that stressed me out. There are very few things that bothered me because they're not essential. They're extra. Then when I eat more food, I start thinking more. I start processing more. I start feeling more. I start going into my emotions more.
Yeah.
I have more options of what I can do with my body, with my emotions, and with my mind.
Yeah.
Because it's fuel dependent, right?
Yeah.
If I need to think really, really, really hard on something, I'm going to need to eat the nutrients that allow me to think.
Okay.
If I need to work hard with my muscles, I should eat the nutrients that nourish my muscles so that they can do what they need to do. And it turns out that there's also an emotional component to our nutrition because our emotions are made of chemicals.
Okay.
When we're happy, when we're sad, when we're angry, different chemicals flood.
And what do you say? What do you say about people that take supplements to replace that kind of vitamins or that kind of thing that we get from food itself?
I enjoy I enjoy trying taking different types of supplements and different types of vitamins because it depends on where I am. I might become deficient on certain nutrients. So it's okay to take supplements once in a while. But it's good to know what are your baseline blood sugar levels. And during that day, just keep a note of the types of thoughts that you have. Then the next day, you eat whatever you want. And you might notice that because now there's more fuel in the system, you're going to start thinking more about things. The next time you do a fast, those thoughts drop away. Now, how serious is your stress and your anxiety and your fears? And if they don't come up when you don't eat, it can't be that serious, right? Because if a lion was chasing me, I would run.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, no, I haven't eaten today. I'm not going to be afraid of that.
Yeah.
Trying to eat.
Yeah.
I'd be like, time to go. And I'd go as best as I could.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
there are 3 basic levels. Baseline essential for survival. And you only think about certain things, the most essential things.
Yeah.
And then there's for living, but then for thriving, what would you eat to be able to thrive? Now, the way our metabolism works biochemically is that it's kind of like an assembly line. So you look at an assembly line of, let's say, a car, a motor company, right? And each car is going to need a chassis, an engine, a transmission, a certain number of seats, 4 wheels, and a spare, right? The radio, all of these different things.
Yeah.
If for some reason at the car company, they run out of transmissions, it halts and it waits for the new transmissions or the new parts that are missing to come in. Our metabolism works in a similar way, except that if you run out of fats or proteins or vitamins, your body doesn't stop. It has alternative pathways.
Got it. Beautiful.
Right? So there are people that are surviving on a handful of
Some
rice
people
or-
that would just go crazy and on an anger mode if they haven't eaten.
if they haven't eaten. Well, the first time I did a fast,
Okay.
I thought I was going to starve to death. And I did.
Okay.
I laughed at myself and I realized I can let go of the fear of starving to death. As a matter of fact, I can go for 2 or 3 days without any problem just drinking water, which then made me think, if I was in a situation where I'm with my family or with other people and we were stuck in an elevator because there was an earthquake or we were stuck somewhere and there was a limited amount of food, would I fight over it knowing that there's a good chance that in the next few hours or by the next day I'm going to be rescued? I would give the food to my children.
Okay.
Because I know that I can go for several days. As long as I have some water, I'll be okay. Right?
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, well, what are the foods that I need
Okay.
that allow me to exercise and work out better? They're different than the foods that I need if I want to think better. It's a different mechanism,
Okay.
right? So we're omnivorous and different diets for different experiences, for different outcomes. Again, if I want to run a marathon in the next 2 days, I'm going to start carb-loading.
Okay.
Right? If I'm going to be in high altitude, I'm not going to eat heavy fried foods. It's going to be mostly certain types of light foods because my metabolism changes in different conditions. If I'm in a place where it's warm, I don't need to worry about eating to stay warm. If I'm in a place where it's snowing and cold outside, I need to eat things the body will burn to maintain my temperature. So an experiment that can be done is that find a day where you're not going to work, you don't have to deal with any stress, maybe on the weekend, and do a water fast, just to recognize how can this body function on the minimal, most essential things, and keep track of what kind of thoughts, what kind of feelings you have. Then eat a regular diet and see what other kind of thoughts and feelings come up and compare and contrast, right?
Yeah.
Also notice that if I eat in a way that maintains steady blood sugar levels, I function more effectively than if I'm eating lots of sweet things and fried things and then this thing and that, and then I'm feeling tired, so I have a caffeinated beverage or some stimulant, right? Then my blood sugars are going up and down, and then my body, my system starts going through different states of hypnosis.
Oh, wow.
I start, dropping balls, right? I start like dropping things. I'm like, oh, I forgot to do this. I forgot. So there's something about learning how your unique thinking, feeling body functions with just water, with just fruits.
So that's
just for a few days, just eat fruits or just eat fruits and nuts and then veggies and then start adding carbs and then see what happens if you're open to eating meats. What if I add an egg, or, what if I add an egg to it, or if I don't? What if I add a little bit of chicken to it, or a little bit of fish, or some seafood, or some other kind of meat? How do I feel? And I notice that I feel differently when I'm eating different types of foods. So, for example, this thinking, feeling body will eat lots of carbs if it needs to exercise hard.
Okay.
Right? And then some proteins. But if I need to think about something, fruits, salads, and there's something about just light steamed white fish or shrimp, I think better. I learn faster when I eat those foods.
Okay.
If I need to deal with money and power issues and be in the matrix and deal with this body functions better if it gets, and it's not a lot, but if I have like 100 grams of quality beef once a week, twice a week max, I feel more grounded and stable.
Oh, yeah.
If I need to go into some deep emotional issue or some deep emotional trauma, believe it or not, bacon. There's something about just pork belly, the fat, this body. Now, I'm a unique individual. Your body will respond slightly differently to different nutrients.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great to know what are the nutrients that work best for you for the situation that you need to have?
Yeah.
Right? And as I've mentioned before, regardless of what I've eaten or what I haven't eaten, if I have a business meeting, if there's an emergency, if I need to step up and do something, I'm going to check in with myself. Am I thirsty? I could drink some water, and I'll drink some water. And when's the last time I ate? Oh, I just had breakfast. Well, I'm good for a couple of hours. Oh, I had breakfast at 8. It's like 10:30. I'm not quite hungry yet, but I'm going to be in a business meeting or I'm going to be doing something important for the next 2 hours. I'm going to get a handful of protein-rich foods because those will help me maintain steady blood sugar levels. So I'll get some almonds or some cashews. I'll get a yogurt or a little piece of cheese. I'll eat some fruit, right? I'll make sure to drink some water. And I might have a tea or I might have a coffee. But when I'm operating from steady blood sugar, I've had all the nutrients I need. Now I might give myself that little boost. Or not. It just depends on the situation and on what's available.
Yeah.
That allows me to function more optimally.
Wow. Okay.
Then with things like vitamins and supplements, I discovered this little game where I was like, okay, I bought a bottle of, all the vitamins and supplements and the multiple and a quality one, right?
Okay.
And I put it there in my kitchen and I took one a day and I finished the bottle. Like one a day for a month. Right? And then I have another bottle that's there, but I don't give myself a discipline of I have to do it. I don't unless I see it and I remember it and then I take it. Okay. And then there's days where I don't see it for 2 or 3 days. I don't see it. And then one day I'm like, oh, I feel like and you can learn to feel. This thinking, feeling body is always giving you information about your posture, the temperature, your hydration, your blood sugar levels. It's almost like there's a pop-up display that's available that you can look at it. Right now, I've mentioned before that I'm a pilot. I like to fly airplanes, single engine airplanes, the simplest ones possible.
Yeah.
Right. One of the disciplines that is required to fly an airplane is first you make sure your vessel is operating properly.
Yeah.
Properly fueled, everything's working.
Yeah.
Before you take off.
Yeah.
Because you are going to land no matter what.
Yeah.
Can you walk away with a smile or not? How you take care of your vessel makes a difference.
Yeah.
Once I'm flying, we have a display, right? We have So every 15 minutes, you train yourself, and every 15 minutes, you check to see your fuel, the temperature of the engine, all the displays of the airplane, and then you look for a potential landing spot
Okay.
should your engine fail at that moment.
Oh, wow.
So every 15 minutes, you just, and you scan all, and you monitor all of the displays.
Wow. Okay.
And then that shows you that your this mechanism is functioning so that you can fly it. Because flying is, it's a little more complex than like riding a bicycle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but these bodies are much more complex than an airplane.
Yeah.
So what if you could tune in with yourself every once in a while and go, check, once an hour, or like, where am I? I'm feeling a tiny bit thirsty. A glass of water can make a difference in your capacity to perform. As little as 1%, 1.5% dehydration is enough to drop you out of peak performance into lower than peak performance.
Wow.
Blood sugar levels that are at baseline, at peak, it drops peak. You're not functioning at peak performance anymore,
Yeah. Exactly.
right? So
Yeah.
the capacity to monitor yourself and just have a disciplined awareness of how I'm not sitting properly, so I'm going to align myself. Now, all sides of my body are smooth and balanced. Take a nice breath every once in a while. Maybe set a little timer, and once an hour, nice full breaths for just a few minutes, drink some water, and tune in. I haven't eaten in a couple of hours. It's not a problem because I'm just chilling out watching a movie, and now later I'm going to have dinner. Okay. Or I'm actually busy and I'm working. Why wait till your fuel tank goes to empty and, oh, I'm so hungry, I'm tired, I'm yawning. Before that, why don't you top up beforehand? That way you can keep going. But that's the only thing you can do that is you have to gamify it.
Yeah.
I have to gamify it, then it's more fun, right? Because the whole point is to have fun. How can this thinking, feeling body have the yummiest experience, having fun, living, loving, playing, making money, integrating myself in the world, in the matrix, with nature? How I take care of myself really does make a difference. And I'm the only one that can figure that out for me.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
And when you teach or when you have people joining you here at this spectacular place, basically you go through what they eat and you help them put a diet for that, or how does it work?
Yes. Well, one of the things I studied was hypnotherapy. And I'm a certified master hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner. And it was very interesting that when people would, in the course, they would say, here's the first thing you need to ask your clients, because they have issues, they have anxiety, they have stress, they're unhappy, they've gone to doctors, they've gone to therapists, they can't figure themselves out. And then as a last resort, they would come to a hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you would ask them, can you keep a little notebook of what you eat, when you eat, how much you eat, and just keep track of that,
Okay.
just for a week.
Okay.
Then at some point, go and have a fasting blood sugar test at a clinic near you.
Okay.
In other words, you wake up, you haven't eaten in 8 to 10 hours, and you go and they do a blood sugar test for you, right? And you'll notice what your baseline blood sugar level is. Now, this is important to do because you may have some condition that you're not aware of where you have some blood sugar issue. And if you don't know how to eat properly, it's going to interfere with how you think and how you feel. Because we're always thinking, feeling bodies. There's no separation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Now, the vast majority of people have properly functioning glucose and insulin, metabolism, and everything's working properly, so it's not an issue. But what was discovered is that 100% of all of the clients that would come through this place where I studied, and everyone that I've worked with, had never given thought to the effect of what they're eating and how much they're eating and how often they're eating. And what was discovered is that their blood sugar levels are going up and down, up and down, up and down. So it was almost kind of like an inside joke, not joke, but sort of like, you just teach them how to eat properly, their blood sugar levels level out, and up to 80% of their fears, their insecurities, their issues, and disappear. Wow. So you go to a doctor, you go to a therapist, you're looking for a specialist of why am I feeling this way, and you're just not tuned properly.
Yeah.
And if you were just to breathe properly, hydrate properly, eat properly, and maintain steady blood sugar
You
levels,
gotta go.
that would make a difference. And what if you could drop 10% of your issues? What if you could pay 10% less taxes?
Yeah.
Well, what if it's 80%? Most people, it's in that 80 to 90% of their issues drop away because now they've learned how to maintain steady blood sugar levels. So what we do is we have people write down and pay attention to what they're eating, and then we invite them to follow certain diets.
Okay.
And for our more extended programs that are longer, where you go deeper, we're very complex. So
Yeah,
you can't figure yourself out in a day. It takes
Yeah.
a couple of days to figure out what you need to figure yourself out.
Yeah.
And then it takes a couple of weeks to create a habit of how to figure yourself out.
Yeah.
Then it takes a few months of following whatever
Practicing.
routine works best for you to sort of balance yourself and level yourself out. So in that process, we invite them to do a fast once a week.
Okay.
Only eat simple veggies and fruits for a few days, see what happens. Start supplementing and adding, what if I add a little bit of this, or what if I add a little bit of that? Be a scientist, be a subjective scientist to yourself. Study yourself and figure out what works best for you. And you'll realize that for certain situations, I don't need to eat anything. For others, I want to fill up with this or with that. And then I think maybe the last thing I have to say about this, or unless you have another question about it specifically, is that our body works as such that if I can get a handful of all of the greatest variety of the highest quality foods into this body once a week, this body works at peak and it stays at peak.
Okay.
We're just talking a handful. Our stomach is the size of 2 handfuls. So a handful of something is half a tummy. So just a little bit of all the different types of fruits, all the different types of veggies, all the different types of grains, and right? All the different types of meats that are available. Again, I am omnivorous and I don't have a dietary
specific diet. Like you will have to meet people actually and see how to balance that, right?
You just need to figure out how to balance yourself with what you have. And of course, your finances will determine the quality and the variety of foods that you can source,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But with wherever you're at, know that there's people surviving on very, very little food.
Okay.
It's difficult to starve yourself. There are people in situations, unfortunately, where due to the environment, wars, politics, things like that, they can starve and they can be malnourished. But the vast majority of us have access to some form of food. And if you have the time and interest and you can be here on the, watching these podcasts and be on social media,
Yeah.
you definitely have access to all the nutrients you need
Yeah.
to be able to thrive.
Exactly.
So why not feed yourself? It depends on what you want to do. If you just want to barely survive, all right, well then that's your freedom.
Whatever.
If you're okay with just living and staying status quo, but if you want to grow
And level up. Yeah.
and level up, it's good to give yourself more nutrients,
All right.
right? Because if I'm driving my car along, countryside roads, city streets at slow speeds, the amount of fuel that I use and how often I change the oil is different than if I'm hauling a trailer with a ton of cargo up a mountain.
Yeah.
I'm going to burn more fuel and I'm going to need to change my oil and my filters more often, right? So it depends on what is this thinking, feeling body doing and what does it actually need for where you want to go. It is something to think about. It is something to consider because it will make a difference.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rafael. For today's episode, we won't be having a PDF. Instead, there is a link. I will drop it down in case you wanted to learn more or have yourself a specific diet. You can always reach out to Rafael. You will be having, some schedules or appointment for people for free, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you get to have free access to him. So
Yes, and I have a course online that shows you what happens with blood sugar levels and hydration. It's got charts. It's a little more scientific and go into more detail if you need it.
Yeah.
But really, you can feel it.
Oh, we can feel it.
You can feel it, right? So if you can feel it. And if you need to think about it, then I'm happy to share more information on how to think about what you're feeling.
Yeah.
But ultimately, everything in nature feels its way through.
True.
So we are natural beings.
Exactly.
So why not learn how to feel it first?
Exactly.
And then think all you want or not.
You get to choose, right? So thank you guys for watching today's episode. Or if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, make sure to leave a review, share this with your friends, and see you guys on our next one. Bye-bye.